Okay, so Grayson, we are gonna go over your integer practice with your grade 2 test or unit 2 test. And also PEMDAS. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is pretty simple. It's just integer, right?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is go ahead and write down all of the answers here for this. Remember the rule for integer, especially with addition and subtraction, is same signs sum. So if you have a positive number and a positive number, that means you're gonna add, which is a sum. A negative number, you're also gonna add, which is a sum, right? Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and look at the multiplication and division rules. So the multiplication and division rule is that if you have a positive number multiplied by a negative number, or a positive number divided by a negative number, this is going to be a negative answer, right? You still multiply and divide.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a positive number divided by a positive number, or a positive number multiplied by a positive number, or a negative number times a negative number, or a negative number divided by a negative number, then with these two, it's gonna be positive. Your answer is gonna be positive. Right? So let's go ahead and go through this. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this. You're gonna go ahead and fill this part out. Okay, go.
I already filled it out.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me the answers. Let's start A and B and C and keep going.
Okay, A, I got -10.
Keep going.
B, I got 12.
Keep going.
C, I got
-12 or +12?
positive.
Okay, good.
C, I got 1.
Chuck, keep going.
D, I got -6.
Okay,
E, I got -42.
okay, keep going.
F, I got -13. G, I got 3. H, I got -21.
Okay.
And I got -8.
Perfect. Good. So now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the next part. Okay. For 2, it says use order of operation to simplify each numerical expression. Remember to show all steps. So first things first, when you take a look over here, remember order of operation is PEMDAS. And remember it starts with, first it starts with P. Second, it starts with E. Third, it is either multiplication, division, or division, multiplication. They're on the same level. For this, you have to go from whichever is first, from left to right, like you're going this way, okay?
Yeah.
Like you're a little person standing here and you're walking to the right. Fourth one is addition or subtraction and addition. And again, it is first from left to right. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, here I notice the first thing I have is this part right here, which multiplication is. So I'm gonna multiply that, which gives me a positive 10 or 30 plus, and then you're gonna take a look at this part right here, which then gives you a negative 80. Then you're gonna go ahead and focus in on the addition right there. Again, left to right, so it's a negative 50 is your answer. So then for B, first thing I notice is that I have a multiplication on the left side because you're going from left to right. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So that's gonna give me a negative 88. And then on the right side, I have a negative 16 times 6. But you need to be very careful with this negative sign right here. So put a minus right there. This piece right here, the negative 16 times 6, is going to give me a negative 96, right?
Yeah.
So you put a negative 96. Then you got to be careful with the double negative. That double negative is going to make you a positive. So it's negative 88 plus 96, which then gives you a positive answer, and that's going to be a positive 8. So that one is a little bit tricky because it has a lot of steps. Okay, C. I see a minus, but then I see a multiplication right there. So I'm going to focus in on that multiplication first. Do you see that? Negative 2 times negative 8 is a positive 16. Then you're going to go ahead and write everything else down. So that's a 32 plus 16 minus 52. You just do one step at a time, okay? Then from there, I notice that from the left side, there's a plus that comes before the minus. So 32 plus 16 is a 48. And again, you copy everything down. This is going to be your last step. Your answer is a negative, so it's going to be a negative 4. Okay, so for D, again, PEMDAS. What do I first see? I see parentheses, but there's nothing inside the parentheses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there isn't like a series of questions. But I do see an exponent. You see the square right there? Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3, and that's a positive 9, okay? After you do that, you write everything else down exactly as is, and you do step by step. After that one step, next what you should notice is that I notice that there's a division. Do you see the division right here? It's a negative 8 divided by a negative 4. And again, you're doing everything step by step by step. So that part right there is going to give me a positive 2. So then you write everything else down. 9, parenthesis, negative 2. After that, I notice that there is a multiplication right here. That precedes the addition. So this part gives me a negative 4. And again, you write down everything exactly as it is. And then your answer is just going to be a 5.
Yeah.
Okay, for E, first thing I notice is there is a cube. So with that cube, it's a negative 2 to the 3rd power. You got to be careful with this one because of negative. Whenever you have a negative number to an odd power, your answer is going to be negative. That's the first rule. The second rule is if you have a negative number to an even power, your answer is going to be positive. So given that you have a cube, which is a 3, it's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So it's going to be a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So just this little highlighted part is going to give you a negative 8. Do you see that? And you include it in the parenthesis. Bring everything else down. So 16 minus. And then from there, do you notice that the double negative gives you a positive?
Yeah.
16 plus 8 is going to give you a 24. And that's your answer.
Yeah.
So for F, it's going to take a little bit more space. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, so let's focus on F. So for F, this one's a little bit more complicated, so we'll just take it step by step. First thing I notice, I'm going from left to right, there is a multiplication, okay? There is a division on the right side, but again, it's first from left to right. Do you understand that? Left to right. So this piece right here, that gives me a positive 6. Negative 1 times negative 6 is a positive 6. Then you write everything else down exactly the way it is, so you're not missing anything. From there, I also notice that there is a negative 14 divided by negative 7. Do you see that? Okay, so then what you're gonna do with that is you're gonna go ahead and focus just on this piece right here. So this part is me negative 14 divided by negative 7, which is a positive 2, right?
Yeah.
And you don't need to put the positive. So then you can put the parenthesis around it, but make sure you write everything else down exactly as it is. Don't forget that negative sign right there. So then at this point, you just have addition and subtraction. So you go from left to right, whichever one comes first. Negative 3 plus 6 gives me a positive 3. And then again, you write everything down exactly the way it is. The 2 is now by itself, so you don't need the parenthesis. And then your last step is 3 minus 2, which is just a 1. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the next part. So this is going to be your last part. And so, ooh, I don't like that. Let's move it up a little bit. Okay, so with this one for G, what you have is, as I'm looking at this, first thing I notice is there's a multiplication and division, right? But remember, it's whatever one is coming from left to right. So negative 3 times 8, I'm going to focus that one first. That's a negative 21. And remember, I told you write everything else down. So 8 plus 6 divided by negative 3. Then I have a minus, plus, divide. Well, obviously, I'm going to do the division next, right?
Yes.
So then that piece right here gives me a negative 2. And you're going to write everything else down exactly the same thing. So 8 minus 21 plus negative 2, right?
Yes.
So then at this point, everything is already on the same level. It's minus and plus. No more multiplication, no more division, no more exponent, no parentheses. So just whichever one's first from left to right. 8 minus 21 is first from left to right. That's going to give me a negative 13. And then you're going to copy everything else down. Plus negative 2, which then gives you a negative 15. That's your answer. Do you see that? Okay, so next we're going to take a look at H. So for H, do you see how there is a bracket right here? And there is also a parenthesis right here.
Yes.
So bracket is just like a parenthesis, okay? So we're gonna focus inside the parenthesis first. And what do I see? I see a minus and I see a times. So I'm gonna do the multiplication first because that's first. That supersedes the minus, right? So then from here, what is 6 times 8? 6 times 8 is going to give me a 48. Then, remember I told you to write everything else down exactly how it is. So negative 3 comes down, bracket, 5 minus, bracket. After that, the next step you should see is use the bracket as if it's a parenthesis. So well, you can't see that now. What's inside the parenthesis? It's 5 minus 48. So that is going to give me a negative 43, right? So don't forget the bracket. And again, you write everything down exactly how it is. Now, at this point, what this means is it's another way of just saying negative 3 times negative 43, okay? So when you multiply it, it's going to give you a positive 132. And that's the answer for H. Now let's move on to I. And if you're not you don't need to copy everything down just yet. I just want to make sure you're paying attention, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing I noticed immediately is there's a division bar. So you got to be careful with this. So what you're going to do is you're going to focus on everything in the numerator first, and then we're going to focus everything in the denominator, okay? So in the numerator, first thing to do is the multiplication. That right there is going to give you a positive 6, right?
Yeah.
So negative 8 plus 6. You could either include the negative 2 with the negative with the 2, or you could do it separately. It doesn't matter. Either way, you'll have the same answer. The negative 8 plus 6 is a negative 2, right? In the denominator, we're going to do this piece right here first, and that's going to give you a negative 15, right? 7 minus 15 is then gonna result in a -8. Right?
Yeah.
So then your final answer is just a -2 over -8. You could divide 2 on top and bottom because they're both equal, are both even. So any even numbers, top and bottom, can always be divided by 2. So then you have a 1/4, and that's a positive. Do you have any questions? Are you okay with this? Okay, so I'm gonna save this and you'll have this on the video, okay?